Alright, hello and welcome. This is Aaron with Steel Picking. In this video I thought I might cover a topic that might be of some interest to you. It's going to be a little bit off the cuff, a little bit of ad lib, but what I want to discuss is maybe some of the things that you might consider taking with you when you go out to play a gig or a job or play at a function or church, whatever the venue might be. This is some of the things that I've discovered over the years that have been invaluable. Some things that you don't think about it till you get in that situation where you need it. So I've got a list kind of that I'm going to kind of reference here, and also I would like at the end of the video, if in the comments, if there's things that you've run into in your playing experiences that you've wished you had an extra 20-foot cable or things like that, if you would share that with us, it'd help us here too. Like I said, because this video is trying to maybe pass on some things that might be helpful to you. So that in essence is what we're trying to cover. So what we're going to do is Jacob's going to have a link to Amazon for the ones that we're using or I use. That might give you some insight on them if you want to check out some of those things. He'll have a link for that. So I'll just get started with my list, and there's no order of importance or what I found that I've just invaluable that I've got to have. But if you got to pack a seat that you've got, and also a lot of times I'll carry an extra, like a duffel bag with me, like a small utility bag that I can put some of these extra things in. Now, one of the things, like I said, just getting started, is that I always carry extra picks with me. I used to play with plastic thumb picks, and they had a tendency to break. Now, I use nylon now. I have a few plastic ones left. I really like the feel of a plastic pick, but invariably they would break as you used them for an extended period of time. So I carry extra thumb picks, and I carry an extra set of metal picks. So I got a pick that I'm comfortable with. I've got fitting my fingers, and just something that's happened to me too is I've had guys come up, want to play my guitar, look at my guitar, and sit down and just immediately put my picks on and bend them. So, which is, I don't really mind too much, but again, if you've got that set of picks fitted to your fingers, then they bend them, stretch them out, then you have a problem. So if you have another set of picks, and you're like, sometimes this happens, like we would take a break for halftime at the show, and the big guys come backstage and want to look at the guitar and play and stuff. So, as a point of reference, it's not a bad idea to have an extra set of picks. I always try to carry an extra cord or two. Sometimes I might not necessarily need it, but the guys in the band, like the bass player, the guitar player, even sometimes the keyboard player, would need an extra cable. So it was always good. I carried at least one extra cable with me. So that's another good thing to have. Another thing that's really invaluable that you really need to carry, I always carried a complete set of strings for both my E9 and my C6 neck. So I use Diodero strings, and found for my guitar those match the best. Now, I carried a complete set, but also I would carry an extra third, an extra fourth, and an extra fifth. So I would carry a G sharp, an E, and a B string. Now, as maybe a little hint, when I'm playing, those things would be in my pack seat. And now if you're playing, and I've done it, and break a string during a show, you don't want to have to pull out a whole package of strings and try to go through a set of strings and dig out the third string. So what I would do is I would have those third strings loose, laying like in the top of my seat, And that brings me to the next point. I always made sure that I carried a string winder, and I also made sure I carried a set of wire cutters. And I've got a Dunlop string winder, and I think they make a good product. Also, they make a cutter for strings. Again, as a hint, I would have those tools laying out on top of, when I opened my pack of seed up, I saw them. They were laying right there with that third string. Because if you play much, you're going to break that third. It's just inevitable that that's going to happen. So that kind of goes right into the next thing with tools. A lot of times I would carry my guitar set up, and in doing that, sometimes there would be some vibration in the guitar through travel, or when you're pulling it in or getting it into the gig, taking it up on stage or whatever, you might bump something or make something out of alignment. So what I would do, and still do, got a little tool bag, that anything that I have on this guitar, from like maybe a Phillips screwdriver to tighten the key heads on the tuning keys, to every Allen wrench that whatever guitar you happen to be playing that fits that guitar, I make sure I have that guitar. So I've got a couple of little really small screwdrivers. I used to even carry a little crescent wrench. And this gets back into another thing too that I've had to share with other musicians in the band, and I would have it. So a little tool kit or a little tool bag is a lot of times will get you out of a jam. Now, also, we've talked about this before, but I always make sure you've got your tuner with you, your guitar tuner. I've got a Boss TU-12H tuner. It's just one I've had for years and years. So, and looking at that, now the tuner that you have, if it uses batteries, make sure you carry extra battery. I always carried an extra 9-volt battery. If it has a power supply, make sure you pack that power cord up when you leave, and when you're putting your stuff up, make sure you've got that. So that's another thing that I make sure I check. So I've mentioned having the string winder and the string cutters. You want to make sure you have those. Now another thing I carry, I actually got a couple, and that's an extra bar. Now I do this for two reasons. One is, like I've talked about maybe in some of my videos, that I have a lighter weight bar and a heavier bar. So as I'm playing during the night, I give my hand a break by actually changing up the bars. Or, it's happened to me too, if you drop that bar on some kind of hard surface, you can ding that bar, knock some, I'm not going to say a chip, but you can mar that finish on that bar. I've had that happen, so then when you're actually going across the strings, you see that, or you notice that. So I carry an extra bar in my arsenal, or my tools, whatever you want to call it. So going right down, I'll show you another thing that I've run into, is that a lot of times, or several venues I've played, I'll be playing on either a tiled floor or a hardwood floor. So I had the problem of my guitar or my pack of seat moving. So I always carried, when I played out, I would carry like a little throw rug, maybe a 3x3 or 4x4, to at least get my pack of seat setting on that. So like when you're playing, moving, doing your knee levers and things like that, where you're actually having to move a little bit, you don't have that guitar dancing around, or you don't have the pack of seat moving. So that's another good item to maybe have in your list of things to carry. Another thing that I have too that you might want to check on is I have a collapsible dolly. It's the handles fold, the bottom of it, the base of it folds up. I've got like two little bungee cords that I carry, so I put my amp, pack of seat, effects rack, all that on that dolly. I can simply put the bungee cord on it, secure it, and carry that in. It's real light. The one I've got is actually made out of aluminum. So they're relatively inexpensive, but again, they're really something that's nice to have to save your back. And as you get to be, like me, a little more aged, you want to look for things to help you out there. Talked about the tools. That's going to be up to each individual, what tools you might need to work on your guitar. Another thing I do too is I would make sure I had a music stand with me. And if I knew I was playing, I've even played outside venues, I would have a clip-on light for the music stand, so you can actually see what you're doing. All right, and speaking of lights, I always carry a little pin light with me, or a little flashlight in my pack seat. When you're setting up and like the back of my effects rack or the back of the amp, where you're trying to come in and out of with your plugs or your cords, or if you're playing in low stage lighting, like we would have the lights down with the curtain drawn, it would be really dark and I would be trying to set up my amp or my volume pedal, I would have a little flashlight, and I found that I used that quite a bit. Or again, if you've got a sound guy coming up on stage is having trouble with a monitor speaker, or you've got another musician in the group with you that's trying to hook up a cord or something, it's really nice to have that light maybe to help them out also. Another thing that I carried too was an extra volume pedal. Now you can pick up those relatively inexpensive. I used to carry, and I still got, a Ernie Ball pedal that's used, and they're not very expensive. If you get out on a job, if you have a pedal that has a pot in it, that has a string in it, it can fail, well, just like any pedal. So it's not a bad idea to have an extra volume pedal with you. And I've had to do that, so it's helped me out of a jam. So, and another thing going down my list is that I carry a wipe cloth or some kind of cloth. Like I've actually got some old clean rags, like a t-shirt or something like that. It's really soft cotton. I always try to keep my strings wiped off, after maybe between songs, or at least at the break I would try to do that. I found that works really good. That's a good thing to have. And another thing that I do and have found helpful is I'll carry a little bottle of hand sanitizer, which is basically alcohol. What I'll do there is, like the oils in your finger and your hand, if they get on the strings or if they get on the bar, I can take that, put a little bit on that rag, wipe those strings off and clean them, where like if you're having trouble actually holding onto that bar where your hands are oily, you can put just a little bit on that bar and wipe it off. It's just alcohol basically. So I thought this was a few things that I found that I've used. And as far as some of the equipment, like I said, obviously the only other thing on the equipment that I carry with me is I have a direct box that I carry with me. So like if you want to come direct out of your amp into the PA, but if you're playing with a group that has a good sound guy, normally they'll have that kind of equipment. But I think that's a pretty good list of the basic things that I carry with me when I go out on a job. And just to recap, I think the main things that you really, really ought to make sure you carry is obviously extra strings, extra picks, and an extra cable or two. So you definitely want to make sure you have those in your pack of seat or in your bag or whatever it is that you carry to the gig with you. So I hope this helps you. Like I said, it's just something I've been thinking about doing for a long time, and I've had a few people ask me, through our questions, and I've answered people just here and there, but I wanted to put it all together like a a collection of what I'm thinking about, put it on one video, so maybe it'll help more people out that way. So I hope this is helpful. Again, like I said at the very beginning, if there's other things that you're using that you, like I said, man, you really need to think about carrying this or have this, or when I go out, like I said, some of the things I actually help with the other musicians in the band. I've even I have a few guitar picks for a guitar player. So I carry a few flat picks in my little bag with my picks, because I've done that too. I've had guitar players say, hey, you know, man, or he'll break his pick while he's playing. Hey, I've got an extra one. And I usually carried like a medium flat pick for guitar players. So just things you can do like that help you out as a band member. And I hope this helps you. Like I said, and you can share with me your thoughts and ideas, because we do appreciate it. So let me know what you think.